Welcome to Fearless Females, where ambition meets resilience. Meet your guide, Lorie Jones, owner of Fearless Financial Advisors. Join her and remarkable women executives as they uncover the triumphs and transformative moments shaping extraordinary careers. Ready to be fearless? Let the journey begin.
Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us again on Fearless Females. I really appreciate all you listeners, and if you can find that subscribe or like or follow button on your podcast and push it, that would help increase our listeners, and it would get these stories sent out so that everyone can hear what great fearless females we have. So today we're talking with Deborah Takahara, and I love her. I've been working with Leadership Douglas County for like a year now, and Deborah is in the class just above mine. So she did a lot of the training for our class. And so I've kind of gotten to know her over the year, and she's just quite frankly amazing. She was a broadcast journalist. She was on the news. She's one of those famous people on television that's always telling you the cool things that's happening. But the thing that struck me the most about our conversation is when she said she was reporting on something during a snowstorm one day, and her daughter was performing at a school event, and she was kind of trying to watch the school event on her phone as it streamed, and missing out as she was giving the story or doing the story on the news. And she said, I just thought, what is best for them is best for my family. And that gave her the courage to kind of pivot from a high-profile career to really finding her purpose and values-driven family and service, and the courage that it took to make that pivot from something that the world would consider very prestigious to something that she knew in her heart was her value and her alignment and her strength. And to me, that is what success really means. I talk a lot with my clients about values-driven investing. And I talk about how if you're not living and saving and spending in the way that you truly value, you're never going to be really happy. And I loved listening to Deborah's pivot and her courage as she made that choice. I hope you enjoy this. Let's get started. We are here today with Deborah Takahara. She is the Public Information Director for the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, and I am so excited to get to hear her story. She's done some amazing things, and I can't wait for you to hear about it. Thank you so much for joining us, Deborah.
Well, thank you for having me. I am super excited about this as well. And when you said fearless females, it made me scared for a minute. But I am excited to be here.
Yeah, I always think of the idea of being fearless as being a little bit scared and doing it anyway, because I definitely have enough fears for both of us, to tell you the truth.
I love it. I love it.
So my very first question is always, I'm a reader. I love reading. What is your favorite book?
Well, I am not a huge reader, mostly because I just don't make time to do it. But this past weekend, I actually found myself with nothing to do. My daughter was occupied, my husband was occupied, and I sat down and read my daughter's middle school book called Wonder. But other than that, I really like detective novels and nonfiction. And I really like this author by the name of Sue Grafton. She does an alphabet series on different crimes like alibi, burglar, I think C is corpse. And those are really fascinating to me too.
Oh, that's kind of fun. I've been kind of delving into that like mystery whodunit sort of things.
I love it.
It's like a modern day Nancy Drew, right? I mean,
and actually, it is my everyday life here at the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, too. I could just walk down the hall and get the whodunit and where were they? And every single day is like that. So I'm kind of living in my own book and novel.
In your own book series. That's interesting.
Yeah. I should write a book.
You should. Yes, absolutely. So tell me a little bit about your journey, Deborah. Like, how did you get started? Did you know you wanted to do this from like a young age? What do you do now? How did you get to where you are now? Tell me just a little bit about you.
It is really a full circle type of story for me to end up where I am now as the public information director for the sheriff's office here in Douglas County. So I'll start very young. When I was very young, I was terribly camera shy and really just shy, afraid of people. I would hide behind my mom when we went to see Santa Claus. I didn't want my picture taken. And even my preschool picture is me crying because the photographer got tired of trying to make me smile. So he just snapped the photo. And then my parents went on to use that as my passport photo. So fast forward all these years of being shy and not wanting to be in the spotlight or center of attention at all. And I had this epiphany in college that I wanted to be a news reporter. Well, I started as I wanted to be a detective, and I spent an internship. I studied criminal justice in college. I spent an internship, a summer with the Laguna Beach Police Department out in California with the homicide unit, and quickly learned that I was not cut out to investigate homicides or view autopsies or dead bodies. So I went back to school, and I had met some people in the news business, and I studied broadcast journalism and learned how to write and shoot and edit and use a teleprompter and direct newscasts. And we did a college newscast every week out in Orange County, California. And so that's when I got the bug, and I thought, this is really what I wanted to do. And my parents to this day are shocked that I wanted to go into being on camera as a journalist because of how I grew up so camera shy. I think it was a little bit of therapy maybe for me to do this. And honestly, even now being on a podcast or talking to people, it's a little bit terrifying still, but I think that adrenaline is helpful sometimes. So I spent 28 years in news, chasing news stories all around the country. I worked in Fort Smith, Arkansas, was my first big break, and I spent 5 months there. I never knew where Fort Smith, Arkansas was. I had to look it up on a map, and then drove there and worked there, and then went to Little Rock, Arkansas for a couple of years. That's when I did a morning show and I anchored from behind the desk. And then I went to San Diego, California. And then I spent a couple of months working for NBC Network News, covering the West Coast. And then I went to Dallas, Texas, and then I came to Denver. And I spent 16 and a half years at Fox 31 and Channel 2 in Denver. And they gave me so many great opportunities. I anchored every show, covered so many huge stories, met so many incredible people, and just was truly blessed. But then I decided that it was time to leave the news business and made the transition to communications. And I spent a year at the U.S. Attorney's Office here in Colorado and was fascinated by those federal prosecutors that they have an amazing mission and passion for truth and justice, and was really blessed to be able to tell their story. And then when Sheriff Darren Weekly was elected a couple of years ago, he created a new position here at the sheriff's office for public information director. And he really wanted someone to help elevate their story. And they do such amazing work every single day, literally putting their lives on the line to help public safety and help keep our community safe. And so I thought it was a really good fit because I'm able to use all of my skills from being in TV news to help tell their story. And I live in Douglas County, so it's just, it made a lot of sense. And I'm able to pick my daughter up from school every day.
So it sounds like you needed a job that was a little bit more flexible. And that's how come you changed out of like the Fox News over to this?
Yeah, so I remember clearly I was covering a snowstorm in 2022, standing on the side of I-25, watching my daughter do a cheerleading, not a competition, but just a performance at a basketball game on Facebook Live. And I thought, what in the world am I doing? I need to be home. I need to be able to experience, what a mom should be. I felt like a really bad parent, actually, because I was working till 11 o'clock at night. And I got to do the morning routine with her, but I was never home for dinner or bedtime or homework. And I just felt like I needed to make that change. And fortunately, I was able to make the transition to this side of the world pretty easily. And since then, I've known a lot of my fellow journalists that have also made the transition. So I've inspired a lot of people to make that jump too.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I know that there's a lot of moms. I mean, I don't know a single mom that works that hasn't had that crisis of what do I do?
Yeah.
And we all have to make that decision, you know, as to where's our value, what's our time, where's our energy going to go, and how do we show up? And it's neat that you were able to make that jump, but still find something that is very fulfilling. In fact, it sounds like this is kind of full circle coming around to what you went to college for, right? Like in the
Right.
justice system and stuff like
Yep.
that.
Absolutely. And it is fascinating every single day. I learn something new every day, which is my goal and one of my requirements for, staying in a job. As long as I'm learning and growing, it's good for me. So yeah, this has just been the perfect fit for me. And we have such an amazing agency. And I was friends with a lot of the deputies here before I started. And so it was a smooth transition, and it really does feel like a family here. And it's a tough job. And so to be a part of something where they're so professional and they're so dedicated to it, it's really rewarding and fulfilling to me.
Yeah, I think that's another part that as women and pretty much as anyone, like you want to have that piece of you that feels like you're making a difference, like you're doing something important in the world. And I love that you were able to find that using your skill set.
Yeah, sometimes I think, I do social media and I talk to the media. I did an interview just over the weekend on firework safety. And sometimes I think, is that enough? And then once in a while, a crime will come along or something will happen in our community where I have to put some information out and asking for the public's help. And then we get solid, decent tips that can solve a crime or can help in an investigation. And then I realize that is the value of what I'm doing. And in addition to making our deputies and our sheriff more personable and transparent to the community so that they have an understanding of what they do. But to make a difference in a case is just icing on the cake.
Yeah, it is. It's great. Deborah, what's the best investment you've made in yourself? If you can kind of look back over your journey and you're like, oh my gosh, if I hadn't done that, I don't think I'd be where I'm at today.
Well, I think it is that aha moment that we spoke about me deciding that it was okay to make the leap and just take a leap of faith and follow my journey to where I am now. So to leave a 28-year career in the news business, and it's all I really ever knew. It's, most of my life was chasing news stories, and I wasn't sure that I would be as fulfilled or find the excitement in work that I did. I mean, I went to the Super Bowl with the Broncos, okay?
Wow.
I interviewed celebrities. I covered hurricanes and try to top that. I don't know that back then I thought that I could. So, but I knew that taking the leap was necessary, I guess. And I've just been really lucky and really blessed that it turned out the way it did.
Mm-hmm. What gave you the courage to make that change?
I think my kids. So I have a 23-year-old son and a 17-year-old stepdaughter, and then I have an 11-year-old daughter. And I just thought, what is best for them? What's best for them is best for our family. And I also knew I had this really great mentor. His name is Ron Zappolo, and he was a news anchor in Colorado for 30 years or so. And I got to sit next to him every night for several years reading the news. And he told me when I was thinking about making the leap that, the news business will always be there and you can always come back to it if it doesn't work out. And so I had that in my back pocket that if I needed to, I think I had built enough of a reputation for myself that I could squeeze back in. But I honestly have not looked back once. And my friends ask me that a lot. Do you miss it? And, I miss the people and my colleagues that I worked with, but I don't miss the hours or the stress or the deadlines. The news business is really, really hard. And I think it's probably harder now, even in the 3 years since I left, because the viewership is down, which means advertising dollars are down, which means they're not spending as much on quality talent. And so everybody's doing more with less and for less. And is it worth it? I know we need good journalists. I know it. And I know we have plenty here in Colorado, but for me, it was just not worth it.
Was it? Well, I love that you were able to make that decision and that change. That's a huge change. And yeah, my first question is always, well, do you miss it? Like, what things do you miss from what you were doing before? But it sounds like you've kind of come to a place where you're centered and where you can look back and say, what's the worst that can happen? Right? That's what you get. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
Well, I'll want to go back. And so, I've got the skills to do that. Let's try it. That's an educated decision, an educated leap of faith, right?
Although now I don't know if I could go back because they're having to, shoot video and edit video and have, even more technical skills than I had. I was just a storyteller. I could interview people and I was not the technical expert. So I'm not sure I could pull it off these days.
The skill set has changed, has adapted. I don't know. AI, maybe AI could do it for us. We all hope.
I am so wary of AI. I don't know. I don't trust it.
There are days.
Yeah.
What's the worst advice someone gave you? Can you think of some advice that you're like, oh my gosh, I'm glad I didn't take that? Or what if you did take it? What did you learn from it?
Well, I had I won't even call him a professor. I'll call him a teacher or an instructor. I had a college instructor that told me I would never make it in TV news because I sounded like Minnie Mouse. He thought my voice was too high and too squeaky. And it was. And so I'm just stubborn that way, that I was not going to listen to him. And I went out and paid for my own voice lessons and I worked on it and I studied Ann Curry and Katie Couric and some Diane Sawyer. I would listen to them and mimic them and try to sound like them. And it motivated me to want to prove him wrong. And so I think that I was successful at doing that, but my voice still annoys me. Like this, hearing my voice back, well, it's, I think nobody likes to hear their own voice, but for someone to tell you when you're trying to get into a business where your voice is very important, the visuals are great, but you have to have a voice that resonates and it doesn't annoy people, I guess. So for an instructor to say something like that, I felt it was rude, but I wasn't going to let it stop me. And so 28 years later, I think I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, I think you've proved him wrong for sure.
Oh, good.
I think that's interesting what you said too, because what you did is you didn't let it stop you, but you also figured out a way to, taking the voice coaching lessons and listening to people who were successful at it and what they did and how they did it. It's not just, not only did you not take it to heart, but you also tried to overcome. I think that's a really important lesson.
I think my parents just say that I'm stubborn. You can't tell me no. You tell me no, I'm going to prove you wrong.
I have a daughter just like that, Deborah.
Hey, it works out. I know it's hard as a parent because I think my daughter is the same way. But in the end, I think it will work out.
Oh, gosh, I hope so. Because I have to think of 100 different ways to tell her she can't do that without actually telling her no.
Yes. No is a trigger word for me, for sure.
What about a situation that you would do differently? If you could go back along your journey, is there a situation that stands out where you're like, oh, I know now I would handle that so much differently?
Yeah, well, I try to tell my kids that I live with no regrets. I try to instill that in them because, I want them to make the most of their lives. But on my very last day in the news business, I called my son that morning on my way to work, and I said, Alex, I have one regret. And he said, Mom, well, let me back up just a minute. He said, Mom, I don't know you as anything other than a news reporter. This is all my life, I've known you as a news reporter. And so I said, Alex, I have one regret, is that I was working too much, and my hours were, I was working late at night, and I was not home to have dinner with you or help you with your homework or put you to bed. And I would really love to redo that. And he said, Mom, it's okay because I turned out okay, and I know how to do my laundry, and I know how to cook for myself. And he's actually a really good cook. And so he said, it's fine. So it was really heartwarming and heartbreaking at the same time, but he's super independent because I was not around a lot. We did have a lot of other family support, and his dad obviously was great, but I really wish that the hours that I was working were more conducive to raising him, because I think I missed out a lot.
Yeah, it is. It's really hard to look back and say, what trade-offs did I make? And I think the important part of that story, though, is that your son was like, you showed me an example of someone who is really successful doing great things. And hey, I'm not any worse for the wear.
Yeah, you're going to make me cry now. Yes, he turned out great. So I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, it is. It's true. And just take that with you. Take that with you into the future, because I think that our kids are so much more resilient than we give them credit for.
Yeah.
And watching what we're doing and how successful we are and how happy we are in a lot of ways, they're giving of themselves so that we can show up in the best way possible in our different careers.
Yeah. And it did give me pause to take advantage of every moment. And, we got to spend quality time together over the weekend, and just to soak that stuff in, because life goes by so fast, and you just want to make the most of it. So,
yeah. If you could go back and talk to yourself when you were just starting out on this journey, 20, 21, 22, somewhere around there, what would you tell you?
I would say, just do it. I know that's a Nike slogan, but there were so many times where I was hesitant about something or didn't really want to go for it. And, life, as we talked about, goes by so fast, and you sometimes only have one opportunity to do something. I had a couple of opportunities to be a network correspondent, and I had an agent at the time, and he really would have liked to have seen me go that route. And part of me wanted to do it, but, with family life and stuff, I figured it wasn't the best idea. But yeah, I just go for it. Just do it. Try it.
You never know what's going to happen. You never know what it'll turn out like.
Yeah, sometimes it'd be great.
What scared you the most when you started your career, or did anything scare you? You talked about being scared as a little kid, but...
Yeah, I think for my entire career, and for even now, I just want to get it right. Accuracy really matters to me, and I don't ever want to have to, take something back or apologize for something. And knock on wood, I've been very lucky so far that I've gotten things right. And when I was in my first job in Fort Smith, that's why you start in a small market, so you can kind of make some mistakes and get it out of your system before you go in front of a bigger audience. I remember one time I did math wrong and calculated something and put out some ridiculous number about how much water was being used for something. And I got it wrong, and our viewers made sure I knew that I got it wrong. And after that, I was just very careful and, almost terrified to, put out wrong information, and which served me well over the years. I always made sure to double check things and have people double check my work. Yeah, because sometimes lives depend on that, especially my current job. So we aim to get it right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to be 100% all the time, but it does help to have two or three people that have your back that can look over your stuff and help you get it right, and the experience too.
Yeah. And I have a team now of public information officers. And I said the same thing, like, let's not have something go out until we have two sets of eyes on it. Let's make sure that, we're spelling counts, accuracy matters. We have to get it right. So we do a pretty
Don't,
good job at that.
don't you love those nitpicky people? Like, I love the ones that are like, they can see a comma misplaced from like
Yes.
20 miles away.
Yes, we need them.
Yes.
I need them. And
I
I do
know.
have a great team. So we
Yeah.
look out for each other really well.
Any unique challenges because you were a woman throughout your journey, Deborah?
I say when I first started in TV, it was in the early 90s, and it was kind of a novelty that, it was male dominated still at that time. And years ago, the main anchor on the news was a male. Fortunately, I came through at a time when it was opening up for female newscasters. So I feel my timing was pretty good on that. But I did feel like I had to work harder than my male counterparts. And I was willing to do it. Again, I'm stubborn and I'll prove you wrong. And I did have some bosses tell me along the way, well, you can't do that because you're a female. I'm like, well, it was about working long hours or coming in earlier, staying late. Well, you have a family. You can't do that. I'm like, well, I have a family, but I can do it. And I made it work. So it wasn't horrible, but I took them as challenges. I wasn't going to let anybody hold me down. Nope.
So now we know what to do, Deborah. If we ever want you to do something, we just tell you
You
can't,
can't.
right?
Yeah.
What is the thing that you are most proud of?
I would have to say early in my TV news career, I have a cousin who is like my brother. We're the same age, went to school together, grew up together. And he went on to have a very successful career in the Air Force. He was a brigadier general when he retired a few years ago. He told me to use my platform for good and to do good in the world. And I think that I lived up to that. And I hope that I make him proud still to this day, because that was really rewarding to me. And I'll tell you the last story I covered in TV. One of my last stories was a little boy named Forrest from Highlands Ranch, and he needed a kidney. And he had needed a kidney since he was about 2 years old. And when I met him, he was 9. And he just wanted to walk like the other kids at school, and he wanted to run, and he was in the hospital so much. So he needed a kidney. So we told his story, and he was sitting there with his mom, and she said, we just have to be positive. Or no, she said, she was giving the description of what he needed, and it was be positive. And he looked up to her and he goes, be positive. Get it? We have to be positive. And his smile and everything about him was just adorable. So he made this connection with the community. And I checked in with them a couple weeks later, and they said that there was actually a waiting list of people who wanted to donate their kidneys or a kidney to Forrest. And so they were getting tested and going along the process. And then my very last day on the news, his mom called me, and she said she didn't know I was leaving the news business. And she said, Deb, it's my birthday today. And so I said, happy birthday. And she said, well, the doctor called and she said they didn't find a match for Forrest. And I go, oh, she said they found the perfect match. And so I'm like, mic drop, I'm out of here. I don't need to tell another story. I helped find a little boy a kidney that he desperately needed. And to this day, I'll see him at events, and he's walking and running with his classmates, and just the happiest boy in the world. And so to make a difference in the world, and that was just one story, but I was very, very proud of that. And, being able to use my platform for good.
Oh, that's so important. I think that's such a a really important thing to remember is that as we go out and we do these, these jobs and these professions and these careers and these callings that really feed our soul, like we're making a difference in people's lives. We truly are making a difference. And it's so important to remember why we do what we do and make sure that we do that. I love that. Thank you, Deborah, for sharing.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Any advice for a young lady who's kind of starting down the path that you are already so successful at that could help her be you one day?
I would say if they tell you no, do it. There are so many opportunities, even though the news business is changing so much. Like I said earlier, we do need good quality journalists that are going to ask tough questions and pursue the truth and try to make a difference in the world. So I would say follow your heart. And even if it's not as a news reporter, if it's a communication specialist or really anything that you want to do, I mean, now is the time to seize that opportunity. I think there are lots of opportunities for females. In the law enforcement world, we are looking to recruit really good quality females. A lot of agencies have that as their mission, and we certainly do here because the world needs us, and we come at it with a different perspective and a different lens. And I think it takes all of us. And so I would encourage anybody to just follow your heart and your dream and work hard. I mean, I put in hours and I work hard, but above all, love what you do, because then it's not work. It's not even a career. It's just fun and you get paid to do it. So I would highly encourage you to find something that you really enjoy.
A calling, huh?
Definitely. Yeah.
Well, Deborah, thank you so much for your time today. If we have a listener that wants to ask some questions or pick your brain, how do they get a hold of you?
Sure. You can reach me at the Douglas County Sheriff's Office. My email is Takahara, Takahara, at dcsheriff.net.
Well, perfect. Thank you so much for your time today and spending this time and just sharing your journey. And it's really been inspiring and helps me to want to make a difference where I stand too.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for what you're doing. It does inspire.